We are finishing up our series on Jen McCarty's Twin Flames and the event. There'll probably be maybe one or two more posts after this one to complete this series, and then we will start on Madame Blavatsky, which honestly I'm super stoked about. But let's talk about what Jen McCarty has to say about the extraordinary experience of spiritual awakening. So this is one of those situations where this author just pulls from a lot of different belief systems without context. But I do understand that using the term Kundalini energy is probably the best for what she's trying to describe. So we'll allow it. What she says is that when the Kundalini energy that has unified and merged at the base of the spine merges with the heart chakra, this brings with it an ecstatic release of bliss as we awaken and remember our divine heritage and our divine identity that is our birthright. And I would argue with Jen that that is what the whole point of the quote unquote twin flame journey is. Not about the physical union, but about what she just described within you. She goes on to say that as that Kundalini energy continues to rise, cleaning out and cleansing all of the chakra systems, it reaches the third eye center. This could be very much likened to a windscreen wiper cleaning very misty and sticky windows. This is an extraordinarily powerful experience as you literally feel that your sight is being cleansed and purified from the very core of your being. This results in us being extremely psychic and gifted when it comes to being able to read our brothers and sisters and the issues that they are experiencing from a higher soul perspective. So I can 100% testify that that did happen to me. Although my experience of awakening took place before I started my TikTok, tuned in tarot, or any of that, it happened quite a few years ago, almost a decade ago, on my journey, but it did involve my awareness of being able to channel energy via focusing on my person. She then goes on to say that it is also worth noticing that at this point during this stage of this Kundalini awakening, very often we become extremely magnetic to children and animals and everyone who is holding a stabilized high vibration. I already had that kind of experience throughout my life. I didn't notice that it got more significant after my awakening, but I think it's because as a child, I already had a connection or an awakening experience that happened very, very early on, like when I was a toddler even. And I didn't become sort of conscious of what was going on until much later, about a decade ago or more. So she says, one realizes as this energy reaches the crown center that it is when we become one with our creator self, with our God self, our higher self, the energy then begins to circulate within our own energetic field from the base to the crown. The momentum of this flow of circular energy brings forth with it extremely high, rapturous, ecstatic, blissful, orgasmic frequencies and codes, which are then subsequently released from the sacral area. I definitely have had experiences in the past few years that were really exaggerated in terms of the way that I felt physically. I've had bouts of holy laughter that I experienced, especially in around 2012 and 13 when I was at the height of these signs and symptoms of awakening. In 2021 in particular, I had a lot of sacral things happening. It was constant. Sometimes I would have to stop whatever I was doing and just lay down and like feel that energy, that sacral energy. It was very, very disorienting, and I associate it with a masculine energy because it was like a strong pull or a sexual energy that I just had never felt quite so strongly before, especially without like a partner there to, stimulate that or something. It was very, very pronounced experience. She goes on to say that thus the ascension of one's consciousness is the knowing and the remembrance that I am an eternal being and that I am in eternal union with the creator of all that is. This means that I've got guardian angels. I've got a spirit team that's watching over me. I've got my beloveds that have crossed over to the other side that are also acting as spirit guides. It means that you are not alone. It means you are safe. It means you are protected. And I really did feel that that does capture the difference between who I was prior to actually uniting what was going on spiritually with my actual consciousness and understanding it, is I started to recognize that these things were true and that there was no denying it. I think prior to the experience, I was always wondering or seeking or searching, but then after the experience, I felt that there was really no doubt that I was in good company, we'll say. So the reason I'm highlighting these things is because I think it's important to understand why when somebody picks up this book, they may, sift through some of the concepts that are honestly just not as well researched or understood and still feel somewhat like the material resonates with them, because she does make a fair number of points that I can say, yeah, I did experience that on my journey.